Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow My Etsy Shop podcast. Hey, welcome. So today we're going to be actually taking a step backwards because I feel like taking a step backwards is going to help us take better steps forward. When I was in California for Christmas over this last Christmas, my mom, and both my mom and my dad, they flip houses for a living. And my mom was looking for a custom cushion that was supposed to go into this like loft area. And she Googled like custom cushions, whatever, and ended up on Etsy. And she couldn't find the dimensions for this cushion. She was like reading the description. She couldn't find the dimensions for it. And so she said to me, "Hey, Jared, do you see where the dimensions are for this cushion?" And I was like, no, I don't see it. But I said to her, just message the person. He probably makes a bunch of them and just wants to custom do this. So just message him. And my mom was like, what? What do you mean message them? I was like, yeah, you just messaged the shop owner. And she was like freaked out because she was like, I thought I was buying from Etsy. And I'm like, well, Mom, you are buying from Etsy, but Etsy's the marketplace. This is a shop owner on Etsy. And then it really freaked her out because she was like, well, how do I know it's going to be good? And how do I know I'm going to get the product? And is it safe? And is he going to steal my money? I'm like, Mom, no, this is... So anyway, I had to break that down and explain to her, but it got my brain thinking like, oh yeah, you aren't an Etsy customer. And realistically, my mom's interest and kind of what she really likes doesn't align with what Etsy kind of promotes and brands. So I thought that's probably why you've never shopped on Etsy before. It's probably why, yeah, you're confused at this process. So then I started to think, that's right. Etsy is bringing people to its platform. Now, they bring a ton of people, but it's going to be a specific type of person. There's going to be something very similar about an Etsy shopper, or I should say there's going to be something similar about Etsy shoppers that you could kind of probably pull out a few, right? And so I think you could do the same thing about anyone. Like if anyone who spent over $300 in Target this year, they probably have something in common, right? And they're probably not the same as the same person who spent over $300 in Bass Pro this year, right? That's like a fishing store, I think. They're going to be two different types of people. So when you think of it this way, you're like, Etsy is like a Target, more or less, and it's driving in a specific type of person. So for us to truly market correctly, we need to know, A, this is where the step backwards comes in, who that person is. And then once we identify who the person is coming into Etsy, then it's like, okay, now how can I make myself stand out to that person, and how can I create a messaging that stands out from there? So we've spent a lot of time on this podcast really talking about that, but we haven't talked about what Etsy's bringing us. So I went ahead and kind of did some research and really looked into the statistics of it all, and I'll break it down super quick for you. Etsy has, and this is kind of funny, millennials pretty much own Etsy. Tons of shops come from millennials. Most of the buyers are millennials. Okay, but real quick, there is a large section of shops that come from the generation of crafters, right? The scrapbookers, the quilters, the crochet generation. And the reason for that is that a lot of them have their kids are moved on and are not in their home anymore, but they still possess this talent of crafting, which they did, and now they can make money from it. And so they open up an Etsy shop. So there's a big portion of Etsy that's kind of that generation, but majority is millennials, and majority of the shoppers are millennials. Another thing we want to take note of is that 80% of Etsy is women, 20% of Etsy is men. Now that number is growing. Every year it gets a little bit bigger, which was for me kind of like this thing of when I was launching my podcast. I was like, okay, like I'm a man, I'm very aware of it, and I talk like a dude, and I'm probably going to resonate with a lot of men, which is only 20% of Etsy. But just as I preach, my thought process was, I think that there's a market for men in here. However, it has not been the case, which has been great. Yeah, I would say the majority of my engagement comes from women, but that's probably because 80% of Etsy is women. So that's just kind of how that works. But shout out to all my women out there and my guys. Yeah, not to get off topic here, but when I first launched, I was getting a lot of messages from men that were just appreciative of having a podcast. That was my dude. So appreciative of that as well. And a lot of my first growth reports were done they're actually done with the husbands of Etsy shop. Like the wife usually created the product and the man was doing the marketing, and then we would have conversations a lot. But since then, that's not been the case. I've done a lot more growth reports for women. Okay, sorry, that was kind of a tangent. Okay, so now let's focus on millennials. Let's focus on what this is. So I think that when we describe millennials, I think most people describe them as like they're picky, they're overdramatic, they want purpose in everything. They want to have a reason for what they do. And so, I think they're infamously tagged for like the beanbag workers. So like Google doesn't have, has beanbags and all this kind of soft, cushy stuff. And it's because a lot of them grew up seeing their parents in corporate life and feeling like corporate life was just taking advantage of my family or my dad or whatever, my mom. And instead, I want to be more picky and create a better life for myself. So they do that. And that's, there's obviously could be pros and cons to it, but regardless of whatever your opinion is on it, they exist and they are the ones that are coming to Etsy. And so the reason is when you ask yourself, well, why is it that they're coming to Etsy? Millennials, and then keep in mind, this is that between 25 to 35, 36, 37, something like that, really appreciate handmade because it's away from that corporate feel, right? So when you have something that's manufactured and everybody has it, that's kind of that corporate vibe. But if you move over to a handmade thing, there's an appreciation for that product because it's different and it's not the same and it's doing something against the grain, more or less. It's not your typical side table, but it's a handmade side table that's unique and different and speaks to the personality. So if you think about it, like, are they being more picky? Yes. Are they being a little overdramatic about their side tables? Yes. Are they wanting purpose to their side tables? Yes. So this is where we start to kind of put on our marketing hat and really focus in on, okay, this is who Etsy's bringing me, right? This is who they are. They want that handmade. They want that vintage. They want that original piece. And so how can I, as a shop owner, present them my product as that it has handmade, vintage, original purpose to it? So I just did a quick little thing for myself, like, if this was me, if I had an Etsy shop and I just listened to this podcast and was kind of being told, hey, you're not marketing to the world, you're marketing to Etsy shop owners. And this is what you're Etsying to Etsy shoppers. And this is who Etsy shoppers are. They are this kind of age demographic with this kind of purpose of their life. This is kind of what makes them, to go even further. Etsy shoppers identify a lot with nature. They really like nature. Now think about it. Why? It's the exact same reasons. Why they have the custom-made nightstand, why they sit in beanbags and work at Google, and why do they love nature? Because it's this unique experience that you're getting. Nature is not manufactured. It's unique, and there's a handmade feel to nature, right? There's this, wow, it's doing what it wants, and it's original, and it has this, and then, of course, there's purpose found in nature. There's purpose in all of Mother Nature. And so you're just seeing this trend based on who they are, right? So now, back to my original question. If this was, if I just listened to this podcast and was kind of having these light bulb moments of like, okay, yeah, I've been kind of really speaking to the world, but realistically, I need to speak to this generation, this particular person, and see if I can get them to, and if I could touch these soft spots that they have, these things that they care about. This was the answer I came up with. Etsy loves listing pictures, right? And they give you 10 places to place your listing picture. That's a lot. Now, I highly recommend, and so does Etsy, that you use all 10. Even if it feels somewhat repetitive, you still use all 10. And when I'm doing growth reports and all that kind of stuff, like I try to work with our listing pictures need to have purpose to them. Meaning like one picture needs to be a close-up. One picture needs to show in the distance. One picture the number one picture that is a side tangent, but hopefully you appreciate it. The number one picture that I think is missing from most listing shops is dimensional pictures. How big is this product? And so a lot of people go, well, I wrote it in the description. Great. But even my mom was like, how big is this product? Right? But if you can see the product next to something that we know the size of it, for example, if you were selling a bottle and you put that bottle next to a banana, I'm now going to know how big that I'm now going to know how big that bottle is because I know how big a banana is. And that helps me get that dimension. So a lot of the times I feel like that's the number one picture that's missing. So if that's you, fix it. Get a dimensional picture up. It's huge when it comes to online buying. In fact, it's a big reason why people leave or abandon carts is because they lack understanding of dimensional. That's big right there. Okay, back to this. So with these 10 listing pictures, and Etsy wants you to have 10, which means it's most likely connected to SEO and all that kind of stuff. We know that consumers, there's never, wow, I wish this picture had less, or I wish this product had less pictures, is not usually a thought process that anyone ever has when they're buying something online. If you take one of your pictures and you donate it to a theme of purpose or process, that's a better way to say it, probably process. Because let's look at the millennial again. What do they want? Handmade, vintage, original, purpose, right? They're picky. What is it that they fear? What is it that they don't want? Oh, that corporate life. That's what they don't want, right? They don't want to be bamboozled in buying something that's not. So there is a fear of the Alibaba. If you guys know what that website is, it's the China shop that a lot of Etsy shop owners buy from, and selling China stuff to them. So they may think something's really cool, but if they get a vibe that it's China, yeah, this is an original, you're not speaking to them anymore. This nature person, right? And suddenly you're not speaking to that person anymore. So I think about how important it is that we present that we're handmade and that we have a process. And what's the best way to do that? Visually. Donate a listing picture to your process. If you make something, take a picture of your studio. Sure, it's not the product. I get it. But take a picture of the studio. Take a picture of it halfway made and show that. Make a little video. You can upload a little video on there and show this is the process of me making what I'm doing, so that they feel that handmade process. And they know for a fact, it would eliminate any doubt that they're getting Alibaba, that they're just getting exactly what they want. I'm going to trademark that they're getting Alibaba, that they're getting exactly what they're looking for, which is this handmade thing. And so I would really put emphasis on that, and I would do it through listing pictures. And so if you want to do like a little collage and show the process that's in there, I really do feel like that's going to overcome a fear that these people have and a driving force to what they have. So by having your process, you're going to show that handmade, that original feel. And then if you can include a way that you have some purpose in there, I love that, right? So when I was selling, we had a purpose. We knew what we were trying to accomplish, right? And our thing was we were fixing something. This was our purpose, was that we're fixing something that is broken, but we have a better way of doing it. So if you have a process, you want to show that process. And by bringing that into your description or bringing those into your pictures to show what you stand for. And if you can really bring in that purpose, show that process, show that this is handmade, you're going to really, in fact, I've got a few stories in my mind as I was doing this. I thought, man, yeah, this would be really helpful. What was that? Mossy Mama. I know you're listening to this. She's been a great supporter. Mossy Mama, if you're listening to this, I want you to put your process in there. I want to see a listing picture of you doing what you're doing. What's that other one? Lena Studios. Oh, your last name's in there. I can't remember. Shoot. If you're listening to this, she makes animal rings. And I remember when I did their growth report, it took me a long time to figure out that they made them. For I was like halfway in of like really going through their store and having the thought process of like, they're Alibaba. They don't make these. And it wasn't until I like really dug through and found like, oh no, she actually makes these. I'll connect her Instagram to the description so that you can see it. And when you go to her Instagram, go to their Reels section of Instagram and just look at the process in that and see how beautiful they do at showing the process of making these rings. So I'll connect that in for you. But those are two great, well, I don't know if Mossy Mama, I don't remember, but I'll connect your Instagram in there as well. You guys can take a look. That's a handmade product that I think is beautiful. But I know this ring, the Elena Studios does. And so look at them and what they're doing, and you'll get the vibe that's there. And this is a successful shop. So you'll be able to see really like, yes, this is a vibe that I love, and I see what they're doing. You'll see that it's not that difficult. She's really just filming herself working, and it really works out. So that's my call to action for today. Get yourself the process in a listing picture. Understand who's coming into Etsy and get that process in. And that's going to, I think, really help make that initial connection with your buyer. All right, guys, if you haven't yet joined my Facebook group, I had a ton of members this week join in. I just actually, before I did this podcast, accepted I think 18 people into the group or something like that. And so that was on the last day. So I really appreciate everyone that's kind of jumping in and all this kind of stuff. And I actually I'll make an announcement here. So I receive a handful of emails about growth reports and all that kind of stuff. And I'm actually working on something right now that I feel like you guys are going to really like. It's different, but I do think you're really going to enjoy what I'm working on here. So stay posted for that, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.